We have all seen it in the movies. A pregnant woman's water dramatically breaks while walking down the street and active labor immediately follows. But how common is that? What can a pregnant woman really expect when her water breaks? I'm Stephanie Glover, childbirth educator, and today we're discussing what to expect when your water breaks. This is Preggy Pals.
Is that a plus sign?
Pink or blue? Hospital or home birth?
What type of food should I be eating?
I think I just peed myself. I'm pregnant, and I have to exercise.
What pregnancy glow?
Wait, was that a contraction?
Gotta make these pants fit. I've got kinkles.
What do you mean there's more than one?
You've got the symptoms, and now you've got the support you need for a happy 9 months. This is Preggy Pals, your pregnancy, your way. Welcome to Preggy Pals, broadcasting from the Birth Education Center of San Diego. Preggy Pals is your online on-the-go support group for expecting parents and those hoping to become pregnant. I am your fill-in host for today's episode. This is Sunny, and I want to thank you guys, all the loyal listeners we have out there who have joined the Preggy Pals Club. Our members get special episodes, bonus content after each new show, plus special giveaways and discounts. You can see our website for more information. We do have a new website. If you go to preggypals.com, it's just going to forward you over to newmommymedia.com. We decided to put all of our content in one location for you. So that's newmommymedia.com for all that great stuff. Another way for you guys to stay connected is by downloading our free Preggy Pals app. It's available in the Android, iTunes, and Windows Marketplace. So if you're not here in the studio with us, you can still participate as a virtual panelist. We love this program. We love chatting with you guys week after week. Like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter using hashtag PreggyPalsVP. We're going to be tweeting some stuff out today as we are recording our show. We're going to be asking you guys questions. You guys can ask us questions as we talk about what to expect when your water breaks. So again, Preggy Pals VP, and if you do participate, then you can possibly win some prizes. So that's always fun. The reason I am taking over hosting responsibilities today, you guys heard Stephanie off the top, that's because she's our expert. I don't know if you guys know, but our new host, Stephanie, is also a childbirth educator. And so we're going to go around the room. I'm going to share who's all in the studio here today. I'm going to start with Stephanie since I was just talking about her. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Thank you, Sunny. I'm Stephanie Glover. I'm 32 years old. I am the host of Preggy Pals, as well as a stay-at-home mom to 2 little girls. Gretchen is my almost 3-year-old who was born via cesarean, and Lydia is my 11-month-old who I VBAC'd last August.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Abby Lacey. I am a prenatal massage therapist and labor doula. I'm also the founder of the Doula Initiative here in San Diego.
I love it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. It's the first time we've had you on.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
I'm 36, and I don't have any children yet. I'm being kind of picky about who their daddy's going to be.
Oh, how dare you. Oh, that's awesome. Annie.
I'm Annie. I'm 36. I'm a labor doula. I'm actually Abby's backup, and she is my backup, at least until I moved to Bahrain. I was the former host of Preggy Pals, so we have 2 former hosts and 1 current host here.
All right.
I have 3 children, all little girls, a 9-year-old, a 2-year-old, and almost 8-month-old, so almost 1. So, and there were 3 vaginal births, 2 of them in the hospital, and 1 was a home birth.
Okay, and I have 4 children. My oldest is just about ready to turn 4. My middle guy is 2, and then I've got identical twin girls who are 8 months old. So we're all busy mamas here. I know, Abby, you'll be a busy mama someday, but you're busy with other people's babies and stuff. So you're still part of our awesome mommy community. Okay, well, ladies, thank you for joining us today. Okay, so before we get going today, we are going to talk about a funny or interesting headline that's kind of making the rounds on the internet related to... Actually, Stephanie is going to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about it, so take it away.
Yeah, so the headline essentially reads, when Troy and pregnant wife Kristen went into labor in the middle of the night, they began to head to the hospital in Texas, and the husband was wearing a GoPro camera the entire time, so it documents the trip to the hospital and then the birth, which was just outside of the hospital.
I didn't know what a GoPro was until someone explained,
he wears it on his head.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know until about a month ago, and my husband looked at me like I was crazy.
Right? The GoPro craze is just out of control.
Like, why do I not have stock in this camera?
Right. And so essentially it's the video, if you've watched it, like Sunny said, it's making its
It's
way
like a
around social
forehead
media.
cam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a husband driving about 95 miles an hour, I think, the whole time to the hospital.
That's safe.
It makes me a little nauseous, personally.
Good thing it was the middle of the night.
Yes. Because I think he's running red lights in the video, too, if you see, like, once they get off the freeway, I think that's what it was showing. And then ultimately, so the woman, the mom in labor, is a childbirth educator at the hospital that they end up pulling up to. And she ends up delivering, essentially, they're asking her to, take off your pants. I can't. He's saying, don't push. She couldn't. And ends up delivering this baby right outside the hospital.
Yeah.
So.
She kept saying, he's coming.
Yeah.
And like the husband didn't believe it. I'm like, why is this guy not?
No, he pulled up to the hospital. He gets out of the car. He goes to get the bags out of the back seat.
And he takes forever doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's another good reason to hire a doula, right?
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can speak because with my second birth, it was, it wasn't a precipitous birth. It was like 14 hours start to finish. But when the decision was made that I needed to go to the hospital, I needed to transfer from my home birth to the hospital, it was quick. And so, my nanny, thank God, she was the one driving. And then me and my husband, who's like 6'3", and I'm not small either, so we're in the back seat of our Kia. So I, watching this, I think that's what made me feel so uncomfortable. It's like, oh my gosh, this is just like my two. The car has to be the most uncomfortable place to
Every
labor.
bump.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you have, Sunny, when your water broke, when Ainsley broke your water, did you experience labor in the car, or was it more?
I did.
Okay.
I did. It was pretty subdued.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started
once you
to
got
feel
to the hospital.
contractions. Yeah, I started feeling contractions even before we left the house, and we were just so unprepared. Yeah. I mean, again, this was a situation, and Annie's referring to my twins, where baby A broke my water, and I had two different bags, so they were not together. So two different bags, same placenta, we were not prepared. We weren't supposed to have our cesarean. But anyways, yeah, so it was one of those crazy things where I did experience labor in the car. Of course, I have other kids. I got to drop off my kids at friends' house. First of all, I'm calling people on the phone going, I'm in labor. Can you take my kids? Yeah. I don't have any other family in town, so it's totally crazy. And yeah, total car labor, not fun, especially I'm sure at 10 centimeters. I was only like 2 or 3 by the time I got to the hospital.
Right.
Can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah, and then having to sit down while a head's coming out on a wheelchair.
Yeah, I mean, they kept yelling her to not push. They kept yelling at her to sit down and sit down, just sit down. No, there's a head out of her.
How
the head was.
would that be? You sit on your baby.
Yeah, the head was out by that point. And I think the thing that cracks me up, the whole thing, is she gives this just blood curdling scream. The head is out, and then like 2 minutes later, she's like, don't let my baby drop. Don't let my baby drop.
Catch my baby.
Exactly. So the dad lifts her skirt and goes, the head's out. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Your wife just screamed it to everybody in 2 counties over 3 minutes ago.
I know. That's crazy. But if you guys haven't checked out this video yet, I would highly recommend it. It's very interesting. There's a censored part, so you're not going to see stuff that you shouldn't see. Or
they censored out the best part.
They did.
I
Okay, so we're talking to a room full of doulas and childbirth educators here. Okay, so check out the video if you haven't already. Today we are learning all about what to expect when your water breaks. Joining us here in the studio is Stephanie Glover. Of course, she is the host of Preggy Pals. I'm just kind of filling in. She is a childbirth educator as well, which makes her completely qualified to talk about this. Welcome to Preggy. I feel funny. Welcome to Preggy Pals, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we've never had you before. Okay, so first of all, let's just dive into this. What exactly is this water we speak of? What is it?
So the water is the amniotic fluid that surrounds your baby in utero. The water can cause, or it acts as a cushion for baby. It helps regulate baby's temperature and provides kind of a medium for baby to move around.
And we all have different amounts of water in there as far as how much cushion we have in our pregnancy.
It can vary, but woman to woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so what does it mean when your water actually breaks? We hear about all this stuff, and the movies show like it's very dramatic, right? And I know this, it's rarely very dramatic for women. So.
Right. Yeah. So when your water breaks, you essentially have membranes that separate your blood flow from the baby, or like your bloodstream from the baby. And that is encompassing the amniotic fluid and the fetus. And when that membrane is ruptured, that's what it means by water breaking.
Okay. And I know it's going to vary woman to woman, but when does this typically happen? Does this trigger labor and delivery? Is this a sign of labor and delivery?
So usually your water breaks when labor is already in progress. I believe it's about 10% of water breaking occurs before labor begins.
Okay.
But typically it actually happens once labor has already begun.
Okay. And then what does it feel like? I guess we should be talking to everyone here in the studio that's had a baby. So in your experience, I guess, because again, all women are different. Right. What did it feel like when, I guess I should back up. So did yours break on its own? Did they break your water?
With my first, it was a C-section, but I was in spontaneous labor, but they did break my water at 5 centimeters.
Okay.
And it just felt like warm liquid. Gushing.
Kind of oozing.
Yeah,
did it break like boom? Did you feel a big gush or was it oozing?
It was a big gush when they broke it, but I didn't hear like the pop that some women hear because they just used a tool to break it for me in the hospital. But with my second, I had a slow trickle, which so it broke on its own, but was just slowly with slight movements would sort of slowly trickle out of me.
Okay. And then Abby, as a doula, what have you seen when it comes to water breaking?
Oh gosh, I've seen pretty much all of it. Most women describe what you guys have said, that it's kind of like an oozing or a slow trickle of fluid. Some women are confused and not sure if it's actually urine. They're not certain if their water has broken or not. And in fact, there are tests that your providers can do to verify whether or not it is amniotic fluid. But I've only actually ever heard the pop once with a client. And otherwise, I've had women with their water breaking either, from very early on before labor ever starts all the way to breaking right before the baby is born.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. One of my absolute favorite births that I've attended was a first-time mom, and she was laboring beautifully at home, relaxing in the tub, and it turned out that she had this really large, what's called a 4-bag, which is a bag of amniotic fluid ahead of the baby's head, which was putting pressure on her cervix, but it was emerging ahead of the baby's head as well. And that didn't break until right before the baby was born.
I've never heard of that. I always thought it was kind of the onset of labor. This is one of the first signs. Sometimes they have to break it. Most of the time, I guess they have to break it, but it's never pictured it like right before the baby comes out.
Yeah, and in fact, it's actually, there are some babies that the water never breaks. And it's called being born in the caul, where the amniotic sac is entirely intact around the baby. And you should Google it.
Cool.
There's some amazing pictures on the internet of babies born in the caul. And it's actually believed, I want to say it was a Native American belief that babies born in the caul have mystical powers. They're children of the earth, and that they help the community they bridge that earthly and spiritual plane.
This reminds me of cats. Have you guys ever seen cats being born and how they come out like in their own little bags? I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but I've seen, this is what I'm equating it to, how cats are born. I never really knew of. I mean, if you're in a hospital environment, though, I'm assuming these were like home births or something, because if you're in the hospital environment, aren't they breaking it? They're breaking it before that were to happen.
I think that if you're strong, if you have a strong opinion about not having them perform an AROM, AROM, which is an artificial rupture of your membranes, that, if you were insistent on not having them rupture your membranes, you could probably have a caul birth at home, but the ones that are primarily documented, you could probably have a caul birth in the hospital, but most of the ones that we see or that are discussed are home births. And in fact, if you watch Call the Midwife on PBS, they covered a caul birth in a storyline in this most recent season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is like totally fascinating to me. Then, okay, so if they're born that way, if the babies are born that way, then at what point do you break it then? I mean, the baby doesn't stay in that caul environment for that
Well,
long.
it's after the birth.
Yeah.
Because babies don't start breathing
Until
air
they hit the
until
oxygen. Yeah.
Exactly. So after the birth, then they would
Like
break the
immediately
bag.
though, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, I mean, it depends. Most of the videos that we see of it are from water births.
Okay.
They capture it very well, and then when the baby is surfaced, they break the call so
see.
that the air can hit the baby's face and they can take that first breath.
Got it.
Another thing I've heard with call babies, and this is, you heard the Native American, but that very often that it would be ideal if, like, cabin boys of like sailing ships, they would want a cabin boy or a child who had been born in the call, or if it was a sailor in the crew that had been born in call, they would have the call dried and carry it with them, and as long as that sailor was on board as part of the crew, the belief was that he could not drown.
Right.
And so
Wow.
they'd want a child or a young member of the crew that was born in call. You have to have the call to prove it. You could say, oh yeah, I was born in the call. But that ship wouldn't sink then. And so then by him being in the crew, that since he can't drown,
then no one else can drown. right?
Exactly.
That's-
Yeah.
And they sew it into a purse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's called a mermaid's purse. Is what it's called.
Okay, I'm fascinated. Wow. Okay, so let's back up because you were talking about, how do we tell if it's water breaking or if it's, urine or something? Because there's a lot happening with your body when you're in labor.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from my personal experience, my first baby, my vaginal birth, they had to break my water in the hospital. Obviously, no waters were broken, like for C-section stuff. That's a totally different procedure. So that was my second baby. For my twins, scheduled C-section, but they decided to come. So baby A broke her water 3 weeks before my scheduled C-section, so they ended up being 35 weekers. So for me, I've only experienced my water breaking on one of my pregnancies, and it happened to be after or while I was in the shower, which makes it really confusing. So here I am in the shower, taking a shower, and I feel this warm water and everything's great. And then I get out and I'm just like, okay, where is this extra warm water coming from? And again, not having that experience and knowing a lot of women don't necessarily experience the water break, because I had no signs of being in labor prior to that. That was my first cue, and certainly wasn't expecting it. And that was one of my first questions when I called into labor and triage was, I think I'm either peeing myself or there's a leakage here of my amniotic fluid, and then they said, come in and we'll check you. We're not even going to mess around.
Well, something that I was taught as a doula that I always tell my clients is T.A.C.O. And I know there's different ways you can rearrange those letters, but I like coat. Yes, another one, but I like food and Mexican food in particular, so I like taco. So
We're in
whatever
Southern
you can
California.
call it coat. Yeah, I'm from Southern California. We call it taco. So I tell my clients, if you think that your water's broken, T.A.C.O. What are the 4 things you should be looking for? T, what time did the water break? Mm-hmm. A, what was the amount that came out? Was it a couple of drops? Was it a cup? We don't need to be getting out the measuring cups from the kitchen, but just a rough estimate of how much fluid came out of your vagina. C, what was the color? Was it clear? Mm-hmm. Was it brownish? Was it greenish?
Was it pea soup?
Was it pea soup? That's
Ooh,
bad.
that sounds scary.
That is bad.
Yeah.
Yes. And then O, what is the odor? What does it smell like? Some women describe it as either odorless,
Sweet.
or sweet.
Wet hay.
Yes.
Wet hay.
Can smell like wet hay.
See, I smelled nothing. It was clear. What was the time? The time of it just
time
felt
and
like
the
a
amount.
constant trickle.
Yeah.
And the amount just kept happening. So
And what happens a lot too is that the baby's head acts like a cork on the cervix, and so that's what the slow trickle is the way you don't feel like there's a huge gush. Well, it's the baby's head that's in the way. Mm-hmm. But baby throughout, how often, Stephanie, you would know, how often is the amniotic fluid replaced? I mean, it's every few hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
The body,
4 hours?
Yeah, the body continues to make amniotic fluid
right.
throughout.
Like you won't empty. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just because the water breaks, the baby's going to keep making amniotic fluid. So
Yeah.
it's just going to be keeping trickling out until the baby comes out. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now, what can amniotic fluid, and this is a question for Stephanie, what can that tell us about fetal distress?
So like they were saying about the color, we want to see clear amniotic fluid. That's a good indication that everything's So if the fluid is green or brown, it indicates the presence of meconium, which is the first bowel movement. And this can happen during the oxygen being depleted during contractions. And when it's low, the intestines can cramp, and it sends oxygen to kind of more important areas of the body. So it's going to send oxygen to baby's brain and other important, functions of the organs. And in turn, during the compression on their intestines, the baby will release that bowel movement, and it can go into the water. And then in turn, the water will change color. So it can be indicative of.
Okay, well, when we come back, we're going to discuss the effects of water breaking and how that impacts your labor and delivery. So we'll be right back. Hey everyone, welcome back to Preggy Pals. Today we are discussing what to expect when your water breaks, and our host of the show, Stephanie Glover, is also our expert today. So I'm filling in for you guys. I'm your host right now. So, question. So what are some of the do's and don'ts if your water is broken? What should you do? What should you not do?
Well, I say, first of all, really have a discussion with your care provider, even in advance before you get to this point in your prenatal care, to understand what it is that they expect you to do. They may have some concerns about your pregnancy where they would want you to either come in right away, or they might just want a phone call. And so if you're under the suspicion that your water has broken, you're going to want to provide T.A.C.O to your care provider.
All doctors love tacos.
Maybe some salsa on the side.
So, your water's breaking, like Annie mentioned, noting the time, noting the amount, the color, and the odor. And really things that you don't want to do when your membranes have ruptured. Your baby's little safe sac that they're living in for the pregnancy is sort of susceptible now to infection. So you don't want to be inserting anything into the vagina that's unnecessary. So keep fingers out, tampons, just anything, just keep it out. In fact, many care providers will even not perform cervical checks and vaginal exams as often if membranes have already ruptured.
And is that the same thing as saying your water broke? Is that your membranes are ruptured? That's one and the
exactly.
same. Okay,
yes.
So just make sure we got the right terminology.
Yes.
Okay. So let's so she should call her care provider, get in touch, figure out, what they want her to do, and then either proceed forward to the birthplace, whatever, follow the advice. Yes. What if labor contractions have not started? So your water has broke, and this kind of happened to me. Mm-hmm. It didn't start right away. I knew that they were going to start, and actually that's what kind of scared me, because I thought I was going to get off with a second pregnancy and birth without any contractions, because I thought it was going to be a scheduled C-section. And then I was like, oh crap, now I'm going to go into labor. And then I was just like, gosh, I've heard that it kind of, will start to trigger things. And I was like kind of looking at the watch, go, okay, when am I going to feel the first contraction? When am I going to feel it? And by the time they could get me to the hospital, get me checked in, I was in it just as much pain as my first baby right before the epidural, And I was just like, I thought I wasn't going to have to do this. My husband's going, I had plans today. And you had plans today. Anyways, so what do we do if those contractions haven't started yet? You mentioned the possibility of infection. So there's some things going on down there. What do we need to know?
Yes, Stephanie, what do we need to know?
I too had with my second, my water broke, slowly in a trickle before I felt anything. Yeah. And I'm chuckling a little because what I did might not necessarily be what I would recommend. But I think that a woman's birthing intuition is strong. And so that's how I defend what I did. I really think it's going to come back to the care provider that you've chosen, really what you've talked about with them in terms of your plan, and also considering if you have any conditions in your pregnancy that need to be considered for labor. For instance, if you are group B strep positive, then oftentimes care providers will want you to come in right away when your water's broken or shortly thereafter because they want to get you on a round of antibiotics.
Now, what does that mean, group B?
So group B, it's a bacteria that about, I think, 10 to upwards of 30% of women actually have contained in their body. And you can test positive for it in one pregnancy and negative in another. So you can just kind of carry this bacteria. However, there is a risk that if untreated by antibiotics during labor, you can pass this bacteria to your baby and it can cause complications. And so what they're hoping to do by giving you the antibiotics is hoping to also get those to your baby to help during labor, protect them from any complications. So when that's happened, of course, with increased infection risk, once water's broken, oftentimes GBS positive mamas are encouraged to come into the hospital sooner. Some care providers are okay with, look, you're not feeling anything, you're good health-wise, stay home, maybe just try to get things going on your own. And you can do acupressure, take a walk, relax, eat, fuel up. There's a number of things that you can do. No, I don't think that they recommend intercourse because they want you to keep things out.
Well, just like keep stuff out. Yeah. Danger, Will Robinson.
Right. But even, they used to discourage taking a bath, but now they're realizing that's not even necessarily evidence-based. And as long as a tub is clean, a bath can often be okay.
As opposed to a shower, does it matter?
A shower would be fine, but
Okay.
they thought... Some thought initially that because you're submerged in a tub
I
and if
see.
your water's broken,
Stuff
maybe
could
it could
get in.
increase infection.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a lot of it is going to have to do with your personal kind of circumstances and the comfort level of your provider and how long that, they want you to wait before coming in, before labor actually gets started.
Okay. I think we talked about this a little bit before, but I want to be very clear. So, artificially rupturing your membranes. What is all that about? That's when it doesn't happen naturally, and
Correct.
someone does that for you.
Yep. So that's AROM, as Abby had pointed out earlier. So artificial rupture of membrane is a procedure that's done by a care provider. They often use this. It's a plastic tool that looks almost like a crochet needle. Mm-hmm. So it has just a little hook on the end, and they insert that through the cervix and hook around the sac and rupture it that way.
And Abby, you can answer this. Why would that be done?
Well, it can be done for any number of reasons. The most common one that we see is that providers believe that it can help expedite labor.
Bring on the contraction stronger.
Yeah.
So the baby's born faster.
Exactly.
Speed it along.
In truth, the average is that it only shortens labor by about 45 minutes. So if you're talking about a 24-hour labor, which is average for a first-time mom, 45 minutes, not necessarily a significant amount of time in the bigger picture of things. But in some circumstances, it's actually really highly recommended. It's not uncommon for some babies to not fully engage in the pelvis. By that, I mean come down and really have their head applied to the cervix. So if the amniotic sac is creating a cushion between the head and the cervix, what they'll often want to do is rupture the membranes, break the water, so that the baby comes down and their head really gets well applied to that cervix. Because ultimately, it's that baby's head on the cervix that helps continue labor by stimulating contractions and help dilate the cervix, because you want something adding pressure to that while the muscle is stretched.
Are there any, is there a downside? Is there evidence-based information that says there's a downside to artificially rupturing membranes?
Absolutely. If you rupture membranes too early in the process, then you get back to, that risk of infection, which isn't just from group beta strep. There's an infection called choreo, and it doesn't happen significant amount anymore in American healthcare, but choreo is actually a very dangerous uterine infection that can be transmitted to the baby, and that's a reason for an emergent C-section. The other risk that you will hear a lot of care providers not necessarily talk about, I think doulas maybe do a little bit more, is there's kind of an artificial clock that you get put on once your water breaks.
Yes, that's what I felt. I felt like almost pressure, like, oh, they're coming today. Oh, crap.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just that self-imposed, oh my God, my baby is coming. It's also from a medical provider's perspective, they really want to see you making forward progress towards birthing your baby by 24 hours after rupture. If you are not making forward progress, And that's defined differently by
Sure.
every provider and every facility. But if you're not making forward progress toward actually birthing the baby within 24 hours, again, you're going to be considered a candidate for a C-section at that time.
Okay. So the ladies here in the studio, like, how long did it take for your personal experience, whether it was ruptured, artificially or your water broke on your own, about how long did it take for you to finally get that baby out?
I had, for my first baby, my membranes, the water was broken artificially, with the amnio hook. And it was, about 6 hours later. So I went from, it was maybe 1 to 2 centimeters. So I went from 1 to 2 centimeters to 10 centimeters and pushing out a baby in 6 hours. So that's rather expeditious, especially for a first baby.
Absolutely.
If I had had a doula, she would have been psyched. And then for my second baby, as I think I said before, her waters ruptured spontaneously. She was born like a minute later. And then my third baby, Abby, you were there. Abby was my doula for my third baby. What was that? It was like probably 8 a.m, I want to say, maybe.
Yeah.
That my waters released, and then it was like 11 o'clock, so about 3 hours later.
Yeah, it was shortly before the pushing stage started.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so very different.
Yeah. Mine was different. Yeah. When they artificially ruptured my membranes in the hospital, I think I was about 5 centimeters. And then I think I got to complete and pushed like maybe 6 hours later. But I ended up with a C-section. And then with my second, I started having the slow trickle. And then 18 hours later, went to the hospital at 10 centimeters and had my baby a couple hours later.
After a full night of sleep.
Yeah. And a high protein meal and a shower.
Yeah, I think mine was about 6 hours. After Ainsley broke the water, I think mine was about 6 hours. But mine was different because they had to prep the room. And, mine was a C-section. So there was like someone that was ahead of us. And you know what I mean? And they're not thinking, that I'm in, there was no distress on the baby. You know what I mean? Everything was going swimmingly except the fact that I did not want to be in labor, experiencing labor pains. But I think it was about 6 hours before actually I was on the table and they were doing their thing. So that seems to be pretty consistent. Okay, well, thank you, ladies, for sharing your experiences today about what to do when your water breaks. For more information about Stephanie, you guys can visit the episode page on our website. This conversation continues for members of our. After the show, Stephanie is going to be discussing premature rupture of membranes. To join our club, visit our website, newmommymedia.com.
We have a question for one of our experts. Janet in Oahu writes, I'm a CrossFit junkie and I just found out I'm pregnant. How can I modify the exercises so that they are safe for my baby?
Hi, Janet. This is Leanne Webster with 52 Healthy Weeks. I wanted to get back to you regarding your question about doing CrossFit while pregnant. What I would recommend is, number one, talk to your CrossFit coach because she or he will know you better than anyone, and they'll know what you're capable of and what you've been doing up to this point. But there are a few things that you definitely want to keep in mind. Number one, listen to your body throughout your workout, and if there's ever a time when you feel like you want to stop but your mind is telling you to keep going, please stop, because this is definitely not the time for pushing yourself. The second thing would be to stick with lighter weight and lower reps. I know this is not what you're used to, but it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind while you're pregnant. The third thing would be not to lie on your back after the first trimester, and don't do anything that's inverted if it makes you become dizzy. And that's another thing you'll definitely want to talk to your CrossFit coach about. And the last thing I would highly recommend is that throughout your workout, you be able to carry on a conversation. I know that generally speaking with CrossFit, we all become very anaerobic at times without oxygen and have a difficult time carrying on a conversation, and that is often the goal. However, when you're pregnant, it is very important to keep your heart rate just a little bit lower and to be able to carry on a conversation and know what your rate of perceived exertion is. I hope these answers help, and have a great pregnancy and stay healthy.
That wraps up our show for today. We appreciate you listening to Preggy Pals. Don't forget to check out all of our sister shows, such as Parent Savers for parents with newborns, infants, and toddlers, Twin Talks for parents of multiples, and our show The Boob Group for moms who breastfeed their babies. This is Preggy Pals, your pregnancy.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare.
New Mommy Media is expanding our lineup of shows for new and expecting parents. If you have an idea for a new series, or if you're a business or organization interested in joining our network of shows through a co-branded podcast, visit newmommymedia.com. Hey mamas, don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.